Yay, we made it. Hi, Mel.
Yep.
So thanks for joining and for agreeing to have this conversation about your experience in the program. I'm super stoked because you were one of the first. I think you were, what was it, like the second cohort?
I think it was a second cohort. Yeah.
Way back in 2019. So I just feel like we've had like a long, extensive relationship, and like you came in the early days, and I feel like I've just gotten to know you so well over the years. And so it's just awesome to have witnessed your journey, everything that you've like done through creating your Mama Master Plan and more. Like, just like I can't even wait to just uncover all of that and like have you reflect and share and whatnot. So I'm super stoked to just have you and be able to have this conversation. So I appreciate you taking the time. Um, so maybe you could start by like just sharing who you are, how many kids you have. We know you did the cohort in 2019, but just so people know kind of like who you are.
Oh, um, I should have brought my my master plan.
Oh,
So
you
I
can get it if you want.
kid. So I'm born and raised in California, and then lived overseas. Background in arts and culture, anthropology, things like that, social work, and then I had lived 10 years outside of the U.S. When I did Mom Master Plan or Wild Mama, I was in Sydney, Australia, and before that, I was in mainland China and Israel. So, yeah, and when I did Wild Mama, my children were probably like 2 and 3 years
Little.
old. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was a stay-at-home mom. And now my kids are in third grade and kindergarten.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm working full time now, so my life is super different. We moved back to the US, nearby where I had grown up, sort of, and gone to school. Um, so yeah, I'm doing design now and doing the whole working mom life.
Yeah. Which is just crazy, which I can't wait to get into because I feel like that was just like a whole thing and all a part of
It
all your
was.
goals in the program. So can you tell me and share like what were some of the challenges that you were facing before you came into the program?
Okay, yeah. So I think we were put in touch when the first, I don't know exactly the timeline, but I think we were in touch about the first cohort. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, I'm good. Or like, I don't really this sounds really cool, but I don't have time. I don't know when I would
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I came on a visit to the US from Australia and was going through a lot of feels because I was like at home and it had been really hard where I was and I didn't have my family around me and have my kids. And I forgot your question already. um,
No, like why'd you like what challenges were you
Oh
facing?
yeah, what's challenges? Oh yeah. So my challenges at the time were, well, I was in crisis mode and you happened to
Mm.
reach out to me and you were like, just want to let you know again that like the second cohort is happening. I was like, oh my God, I need this so bad. I so some of the challenges were, I mean, a big one was trying to decide if I should move back to the US
Mm.
or stay in Australia. That one was a big, I know I went back and forth a lot. I was kind of in that
Yeah.
space because by the time we started, I was just visiting the US. So I went back to Sydney, but it was
Mm.
really like that was a big decision. So deciding where to live. I don't know if it was a challenge, but I was trying to do a few online courses to get into UX design.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like I just hadn't been connected with anything that wasn't being a mom for so long.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
know even getting on, like, honestly, just what we use, like using Slack and Zoom and all that, really like kind of just got me back in the mode of,
Yeah.
what everyone used then when the pandemic hit later on.
Totally.
Um, I think definitely resonated with me this challenge of like knowing what we want, but feeling like we can't have it,
Mm.
and how to balance being a parent. I don't ever feel like my identity was subsumed being a mom, but I definitely felt like I don't have the time.
Mm.
Just signing up and committing to Wild Mama because of my crisis mode
Yeah.
helped me then, look at do I really not have the time? How can I be creative? What things do I need to feel, to serve me so that I can be a better mom? All those things.
Yeah.
It
And
was a variety.
I remember too that you because you joined and you were in Australia, you were doing calls at like 5:30, wake up really early and like go in your bathroom or
It
somewhere
kind
in
of
some other
worked.
house. Yeah,
That's what
but
I
you made it
worked.
work. You
Yeah,
found the time and that was so
exactly.
awesome.
Yeah, I was like, this thing that I thought would be a barrier, like the time difference, actually made it where the kids were asleep
Yeah.
and I could have the
Yeah.
calls. Yeah.
Yeah. It was awesome. So considering like all the transition, the questions, what motivated you to actually join? Was it because you felt like you were in that crisis mode or just
Yeah,
like,
for sure. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it was just being like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I want. Don't know what I want. Um, and I borrowed money from my mom because I was like, I need this to be my thing. I don't want this to have to be a conversation with my husband.
yeah,
I just want to borrow the money and do it, and I'll pay her back. And that's important to me.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was, I think, yeah, being like, I can do this, and I'm gonna put my money where, I feel
yeah.
like I showed up to everything. When people would
You
miss stuff,
did.
I'm like, what are they doing? This costs, like, we invested in this.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like sucking every little bit out of the call.
No, yeah, you showed up like hard, like you were in it. And I feel like sometimes that's what it takes. It's like, yes, it's money, it costs a lot. It's like making investment, but also putting it there, it forces you to get really clear on like if I'm gonna do this or not. Like I'm not just gonna throw away money or waste this opportunity. I'm gonna show up. So I think there is value in having to sort of put your money where your commitment and mouth is because it's like it does force you to kind of show up and be really serious about if you're serious about yourself and the changes you want to make and the deep work. So
Yeah.
I think that's a part of it. It's not all of it, but it's definitely a part of it. um so how do you feel like the holistic approach that the program takes impacted like your journey, because it is more holistic versus like therapy or other things, and it's not that we don't like therapy, we love therapy, but it's like it's not compartmentalized in many ways. And so how do you feel like that holistic approach that the program took impacted you in your journey?
Well, I mean, just first of all, I felt so seen. This isn't like a method or a thing. Like you say, apply
Mm,
it to one part. It was like my whole self.
yeah.
And everything was acknowledged. Like I felt comfortable
Oh,
to talk about my spirituality. I felt comfortable to talk about my emotions and
yeah.
felt comfortable to talk about my family and my relationship and my challenges. So I think that just the safe space that was created to fully show up and talk about anything
Mm,
really did feel like a place where people were not getting political or it was
yeah.
very like who you are, and you come and other people are listening and they're sharing as well. And um yeah, I think honestly for me, kind of the spiritual side and the fact
Mm,
that a lot of the quote, I mean, Women Who Run with the Wolves, the book,
yeah.
which I did
Yeah.
not know about and found out about because so many quotes are from that. I mean, that book has changed my life as well.
Yeah.
And
Same.
so the quotes you would use, it was just so like shot to the heart, like straight to the
Mm,
core of things in a way that was very, I feel like it was women focused. It was not
yeah.
generalized.
Mm,
It like being in a space where you're like, your intuition does matter. I mean, rather than being people like, oh, you silly people talk about dreams,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that was
for
the space
sure.
I was in.
Mm, mm,
All of that was like, well, maybe that was just me in my 20s with my girlfriends. And now I have to
mm.
put my,
You got to grow
big
up.
boy pants on. Yeah. And then being
Yeah.
like, no, that is not. And I was just realizing too, I think at that time, because I was living internationally, I had a few mom friends, but they weren't close friends. And so I couldn't
Mm,
and then my mom friends that were like friends who'd had kids around the same time with the time difference and everything. Like, so I was coming in like starving for that connection,
mm,
having it be facilitated and, very what do you call it? Like you're skillful in your facilitation.
mm.
Like, I think that really helped create that space where I felt like I could talk about these things that were important.
Yeah.
2 hours, and there was like 3 or 4 people sometimes, and it would go
Yeah.
by fast.
Yeah.
We needed those 2 hours.
Yeah.
We
I
were just,
know.
yeah.
Yes. And I think, having the smaller groups is so much better because it gives you that space to speak and to
Mhm.
share and to talk. And I feel like that is what helps you be seen, because I can't see you unless you're showing me something. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and so you were able to kind of like share, open up, be vulnerable, speak, and then be seen by all of us. And
Yeah.
that's just so powerful and validating in your experience.
I think also just the way you facilitate the space, like you're very like if someone's missing, you would acknowledge it. Or if someone
Mm,
brought something up and you'd say, I'm gonna get to that later, you would.
yeah, yeah.
That created a high level of trust.
Mm,
I think
wow.
that's so important. When you say something and someone's like, let's icebox that for
Yeah.
later. They never come.
I
Like
spot.
icebox means we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
But
that's
when
so
you'd be like,
funny.
let's get to that question and continue going around, but then you would get back to it and you'd address it.
Yeah.
Was that honestly, just as a facilitator, that was something
Mm,
that impacted the way I facilitate spaces, like just
wow.
being really like honoring who's there.
Mm.
If they're not there, saying it, you know?
Yeah, because it matters. Like it really matters. It's not enough for y'all to just sign up and then it's like just no one shows up. It's like, nah, man, if you show up, I'm committing to you. So you're committing to this as well. And we're getting to the end. Like
Yeah.
this isn't like a game. And so really, that's why I have people apply, because I don't want people to just kind of be in and out. Like I want us to be truly committed, because your journey impacts all the other mamas' journeys. Their journey impacts your journey.
Yeah.
I'm impacted, by you being there or not being there. It's like it's a whole collective experience as well as an individual experience.
Mhm.
So, but I've never had anyone name it like that. So I appreciate you naming it like that. And like it's like there's those subtleties, those nuances that help you feel seen and build that trust, like you're saying, like that that means a lot. And I didn't really like consciously think about that
That's
actually.
huge. Yeah.
That's awesome. Was there a particular like week or module or activity that like really was a turning point for you in the program?
Well, having just kind of reread my Mama Master Plan recently, so I'm thinking more of like the artifacts and the outcomes that come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, definitely identifying core values.
Yeah.
It was funny. I read mine and I was like, I just say the word beautiful over and over again.
You did. I remember that. There's another word you used. What was it, like muddling or
Oh, puttering.
puttering. That's the puttering. I remember you used that word.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think identifying those and being, I guess for me, because one of mine was like attraction to beauty or something, it was like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna say
everywhere.
this. This is important to me. Like it does matter to me that I make something beautiful and that I can hold
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Like that just is a value of mine. And then I
Yeah.
think, I mean, something I've gone back to a lot was just when we did our rooms
Mm.
and your whole like thing about you can know where you're go. I don't know if it's connected to the rooms, but like if you
Yeah.
want to get somewhere, you have to know where you are.
Yes. Yes. That's right.
So looking through my rooms and then my friend who was recently just reading me my master plan, it was like, I have 14 rooms. I was like, damn, what? 14 rooms? I forgot I had so many.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And as someone who always has all their tabs open in their brain, I was like, oh God, no wonder I can't keep track of stuff. Like I have 14 rooms. But I think I associate that with the story about Vasilisa
Yeah.
and going through the separating
Yeah. The
the
poppy seeds from the dirt
dirt from
pile.
the poppy seed. And I
Yeah.
think to me, that's what we were doing in that. And that was the most challenging for me. I think
Mm.
that's why it sticks out, because values and things, I was like, yeah, this is okay. Yeah, this is me. And that was the hard work of saying, you need to
Mm.
go through and decide in each room, what are you keeping? What are you donating? What are you
Yes.
throwing away? And
Yes.
that's when it kind of the rubber hit the road. And I was like, this is
Mm.
hard, but I was so glad I push through it.
Yeah. 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 How were you able to push through it, or like what did that look like?
I remember it was a very scribbly note of paper, like covered in stuff. I think it was just because I was committed to all the exercises. I'm like, I have
Yeah.
to do this exercise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, this
You
is
were
that.
so committed.
And I
I
think because
love
every
it.
time you would ask us to do something, or there was some quote we were reading and reflecting on it, I would get value from that
Yeah.
activity. So I'm
Yeah.
like, well, if I don't do this, I'm not going to get the value.
Mm.
If I had activities, if there were warm up activities leading up to that hard one that I didn't get any value out of, I would have been like, this is too hard. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
Up to that point, I was like, I always get an insight.
Mm.
So I should do it even when it's hard.
That's so great, because that's important to me, that it's like everything is designed intentionally. Like I'm not just asking questions. I'm not just filling the course with fluff, right? It's total depth. Like, and
Yeah.
everything matters, even though some things are repetitive, but it's like sometimes that repetition is necessary to really dig at like what's really there. Are you really sure? Because
Mhm.
then you start to repeat, and then you're like, oh, there's a thread of things. This actually is really important to me. Like you're saying with the beauty, everything's beautiful. It's like kept showing up, kept showing
Yeah.
up. And that's ultimately what we're looking for in the rooms and just throughout our process, is the patterns. What is the theme? What is the pattern? What keeps showing up? What do I keep saying? And then it
Mhm.
helps you get more clear with like, what do I actually want? And it's really hard to deny when
Mhm.
you've done that deep digging and you keep saying the same thing. It's like, oh, this must mean something.
Mhm. Mhm.
So how did the like week by week approach, because each week has a theme and each week kind of builds on each other, it's not just like random modules or
Yeah.
whatever. So how did that like week by week format or approach kind of help you, or like what was that like for you?
I mean, I kind of later on did a book club that followed like the same format.
Yeah.
So, um,
It works.
yeah, it works. Yeah. I think, I mean, yeah, I think the pace was good for when we did it. I liked the pace because I was
Yeah.
very focused on that and only that. Um, and there's just so many different spaces. It was like there was the individual work and then coming
Mhm.
together and talking, but you didn't have to
Mhm.
prep to talk. You
Yeah.
just talk
Yeah.
about whatever occurs to you that you had asked us about, or based on what we had done in
Yeah.
our own individual work, and then having Slack there to be able to, just see what other people are thinking about and just feel like you're part of a community. Like
Yeah.
it kind of had enough differences to kind of feel like you could engage hard on one,
Yeah.
and I just felt like you were always doing the deep work as an individual, and then
Mm.
getting to kind of share your gut reactions and support people and be in conversation on the calls. But it wasn't like
Yeah.
prep for the call in a sense. You're prepping for yourself. You're doing
Yeah.
the exercises for yourself, and then just like getting to conversate and listen.
Yeah. 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 Which it just relieves, I think, a bit of that pressure,
Yeah.
because like in a traditional like course or school platform, it's like, oh my God, I got to do my homework. If I don't do my homework, I'm going to fail. And da, 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 da. It's like, no, like do your deep work, do as much as you can, show up as you are, because that is so much of the work, just showing up, just being there, showing up for yourself, showing up for others. That's so much a part of the process. So how did you feel about the level of accountability in the course? Like, what did that look like? And like, did you feel like there was enough accountability, or?
Well, I think this goes back to kind of what I was saying about how the way you facilitate, that's also you're remembering everything about us as individuals
Mm,
because you actually care.
yeah.
So I think that creates accountability because
Mm,
you remember, you'll be like, oh, also remember you said this one time. And I'm like, oh yeah, like what you remember would help with the insights we were having in the moment. And so I
yeah.
think knowing that you were really listening
Mm,
and that you really care about moms, which is also so funny right now because I was thinking when you asked about, what about the holistic approach? And I'm like, damn,
yeah.
give those moms. That's what we've also seen.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's so specific. Like, somehow you've like parsed out this specific thing. And it's like every mom there is like, yes, I'm experiencing some version of that.
Yeah.
But it's nothing you would really see people write about. Like moms know what they want, but
Mm.
they don't. Like it's so subtle. But then when you hear it, you're like, oh my God, yes.
Yes.
That is so true.
Yes.
So I think it was just knowing that you're a good listener,
Mm.
that you get what we're talking about, and that what we're talking about or what are the challenges we're having are valid and like shaping our life.
Yes.
So how important the work is to like get through these things.
Yes. Yes.
When I feel like generally people might just be like, I don't see why that's a big, make a decision or like just make, oh,
Right.
you need to schedule an hour for yourself every day. And you're
Right.
like,
Right.
why?
Right.
I don't, what is it? Why?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I think just all of that when, but people want to be heard. So if you're in a space where you feel heard, you feel like you want to show up and it helps you to
Mm.
engage. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. And I feel like, yeah, like I'm always committed to that deep listening and knowing, but it's so funny because I probably can't remember anyone's favorite color or like your favorite food or like any of those things, but it's like I'm on this like other journey with you that I like. It's like pictures in my mind of everything that we've talked about that over time creates this story that I like see in my head that I can like, oh, well, remember this, remember that. But my kids will ask me like, Ma, do you remember this? I'm like, no, I don't remember that. So it's like I have this capacity to remember like the deeper kind of inner world stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes sense in my head, but I can't necessarily remember like your favorite color. I don't know your favorite color. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. So it's just funny that like, but that's just, I guess that's my gift. That's what I'm good at, and I am a seer, and so I can see your inner world. I like know you so well, even though we've never met in
I
person,
know that's crazy to me.
which is crazy. Like I know you, Mel. Like I know you so well, and yet we have never seen each other in person, which is why I'm like you. I need to convince you to get to the retreat so I can hug you. But it's like it's just crazy to me that like we've never met in person. I don't know your favorite food. I don't know your favorite color. I don't even think I know your mother's name, right?
Mhm.
But I know you
Yeah.
on a deep, deep level.
Well, actually, I was thinking today after our other conversation earlier today, I was like, if anything, people should just do Wild Mama so that later when they need a coaching hour, they can reach out to them and she already knows your story.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's crazy because the mamas, I know you're considering doing it again, but like the mamas who did it again this last round, it's crazy because I'm like, some of them did it the first cohort. And I had those reflection questions that they did in the intake form in the first
Oh,
cohort 4 years ago. And I was able to show them their intake questions from this cohort and then their ones from 4 years ago. And it was so cool. I was like, who can do this for you? Like for real. Like who can do this for you?
yeah.
Like who can remember where you were and follow you on this journey for the last 4 years and know your inner world, like not just like, oh, I know Mel, I know
Mhm.
whatever. It's like
Yeah.
no, like to follow that and care about that excavation, that journey that you've been on. I'm like, that's special. I feel honored
Yes.
to be able to like be in that, and that yeah, you can just call me and be like, okay, we'll pick up right where we left off and we're
Mhm.
gonna go deep right away. There's
Mhm.
no bullshit. Like
Mhm.
that's just, it feels like a magical thing, like just like holy shit, that's so cool. So then when I get to work with mamas again, it's like ooh, we get to go a lot deeper because
Yeah.
I already know you and you've had time to integrate the program and what you've learned and move through life. You're a different person now, but your understanding is so much deeper that like everything that we cover in the course is going to mean so much more. It's going to be different. And
Yeah.
it's just like it's a whole new thing. And so yeah, it's exciting, and I'm glad you trust me so much, and like that we're able to like have this kind of engagement and dialogue, because I don't think a lot of people are connected to other people to that level of depth.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you have to go through years and, like you said, how about my inner journey, and like the only other people who would know about that are like my friends of 20 plus years,
Right.
And it feels like, well, no one's ever going to know me those things unless they've known me for that long. But because we've dug deep into that,
yeah,
I'm just remembering, I feel like this is somehow related, but like you have a very good nose for bullshit. Like I remember when we talked during the pandemic, we had a coaching call, and I was just like, oh yeah, like Tiff can sniff out when you're doing something for someone else that you don't actually want to be doing. Like you're very good at that. But you can call it without, you just say it as it is.
Yeah.
But I think probably part of that comes from knowing who I am and what my values are. So you can tell when you're like, well, is that really your thought, or is that someone else?
Yeah. Right.
And
Right.
that's what we were talking about earlier. Like, how many times is it like you have a thought or a point of view, and it's not actually yours, but you're functioning on it?
Yep.
I've definitely had that through the years where I have some feeling and thought, and like 2 days later, I'm like, oh my God, that's not mine.
Yeah.
That's just osmosis.
Yeah.
And I don't actually feel that way.
Yeah. And how empowering to get to that point, to be able to know, oh shit, I felt like it was mine. It felt like very strong. But then you can come to this point, it's like, oh, that's actually not mine. So here, you can have this back. I'm going to go do this. Like, to even know that you can do that, to even know that that's a choice. It's like, oh, so empowering, to be in that space. Yeah, that's amazing. And yes, I guess, yeah, that is a gift I have, of just sniffing out the BS. But I think it's because I'm so committed to your ultimate vision, your values, your lifestyle goals. So that's my sort of gauge. It's like, oh, but this isn't really aligning to what you said you want. And I feel like that's my role, is to always just be that mirror of just like, hey, I'm a champion of your vision. I'm a champion of your values and what you ultimately want, and you living into the most like aligned, purposeful version of yourself. So that's the standard. So like anything else is like, well, what the fuck is that? But it's no judgment. It's just, hey, what is this, and how does it or not align? And then you get to decide what to do with it, but yeah, that's funny. So through the program, and like just, the excavation of self, what do you feel like were some of your root issues, and like how did being in the program kind of like help you either uncover them or address what those were?
Oh, I need to think back for that. I mean, I think, well, this is something I feel like I'm revisiting, which we just talked about earlier today.
Yeah.
That's why it's on my mind. But when I think at the time, I don't know if this is a root issue, but at the time I was going back and forth between deciding where to live when I already knew where I wanted to be. But it was like this whole back and forth thing. And I think like, so that was one. And I do see that as a symptom of being afraid you're making the wrong decision. For sure.
Like not trusting yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think honestly, a big part was just accountability. being accountable to someone other than myself, because I was married and had kids, and I'm like, shit, this isn't just about me. It's easy to fuck up your own life. When you feel like other people are depending on you, it's really scary. And so actually, whoa, I'm just putting this together right now, but like, I think that's why it was easier to let someone else lead and make all the decisions about where we're gonna, like, let's go here, let's do that, this is the plan. And I'm like,
yeah,
cool. Then I can blame you if it doesn't work out. And this was me, like, no, I'm gonna be really clear and decide and tell my partner, and my kids are too young to have an opinion, and we're gonna do this. And it felt really scary.
It feels like almost like moving from like backseat to I'm driving.
Yeah.
Like taking a backseat in your own life to like,
Yes.
no, I'm taking the wheel again.
Yeah. And as we talk about that, I'm like, that was terrifying.
Oh, yes. I know
Um,
it was.
yeah. So I guess I didn't identify this until right now when you asked me. But
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, one of the root issues is just like taking accountability for my life and
Mm.
confidence that I'm going to try something.
And that you could do
I-
it.
Yeah. And that, you know, it does affect people. And
Mm.
actually, all of our actions affect people. But that was, I think, me coming into that awareness.
Mm.
Like my sister would say, that's definitely true. Like, so yeah, I think about it, I'm like, yeah, that
Wow.
we taking accountability that's like staring you in the face rather
Mm.
than um you know, being like, oh, well, I chose to do this and that's their, other people can figure it out, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
really affect them or something. So,
Yeah.
yeah, taking accountability for that, what I choose to do in the world affects other people.
Mm. Yeah.
Shit,
Yes.
I think I just realized the answer to what we're talking about.
Because you were always really concerned because you're someone who, you know, you do have different ideas, you change your mind, you go back and forth. Like those are things that you were really struggling with. And like, can I trust my own decisions? Can I trust? So you were really scared to present a decision to your husband. You were really scared to say,
Yeah.
like, hey, this is what I want, because you were afraid of the sort of challenge of like, are you sure? I don't know, but you always change your mind. You don't know what you want. Da, da,
Mhm.
da, 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 da. You were afraid of that kind of like backlash in a way of just like, hey, if I'm not truly sure, I'm going to get hit with this thing and then I'm going to doubt and I'm going to not stick to it and I'm going to change my mind again and I'm going to question, I'm going to circle around. So for you, I felt like when you decided and you got to the point of like making your mama master plan, you put it to paper, you printed that shit out,
Mhm.
you were, the constant thing for you was like, stick to the plan, stick to the plan. It was like your accountability buddy for the rest of like the next
Yeah.
years was
Yeah.
like, stick to the plan. It helped you kind of refocus so that when you felt like, oh, I'm going to doubt, I don't know, should I do this? Should I follow this? It's like, no, I went through this process. I got really clear. These are my values. These are my goals. Just take action. And I think
Yeah.
it really helped you just focus on imperfect action and moving things forward and trusting rather than kind of going in the spiral of like questioning, 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 and being
Yeah.
afraid of like what other people were going to say or think or the resistance that you'd experience.
Well, and I think that's the thing because I'm thinking back and like my decision didn't make sense to anyone. We, you know, we're in Sydney, Australia. We're going to move to the US where there's guns everywhere. Trump was president
Uh,
and there's no health care. Like we're coming from a place that healthcare, I got paid to have my babies. It was super, you take them to the doctor. It doesn't matter. Everyone has the same insurance.
mm,
Like there's no guns anywhere. There's no poverty anywhere. They don't have extremes really. So
mm,
it didn't make sense to anyone. And I remember once we decided and when we were moving and I like was just had to be like, yeah, it's what I want.
yep,
You're not going to understand. It's not going to
yep,
make sense if you write it down on paper. But
yep.
I knew, and since we moved, then it was like we moved, and then it was a pandemic. But all of our goals and things I wrote down, like came true.
Yeah. Yes, which I want you to share. Like, what are some of those
Yeah,
specific things? Because you were very specific, right? Like,
yeah.
everyone has
Oh my
their
god.
own journey, but like, you were so clear and specific in what you wanted. You wrote that shit down. Please share what some of those things were and like how you applied all of this and like what happened in your life.
I mean, some of it's probably just putting it out there and knowing what you're going for.
Mm,
Because a lot of stuff I'm like, oh, I'm just magical. I don't know. But like, like I said, we moved and then it was pandemic.
yeah.
So I wanted a career in UX design, emailed the CEO. She passed me to someone for a coffee chat and then I got hired in the
And
pandemic.
this is with like no formal
No formal. Yeah, no.
design background
No.
and being out
Just
of the
doing people's
workforce
Squarespace sites.
for
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. So that worked out. And then it was working remote. So got my first design job, and then big one was that we'd moved back to the US.
Yep.
I had some, salary goals, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I for sure, I mean, I had that job for 2 years and then got recruited and made 3 times as much. And I was like, it just took a year and a half to get there. Hell yeah.
Yes, Mel.
And there was a lot of stuff that contributed that too, I think, just
Sure.
in the universe and whatever. But so that was great. Kids got into bilingual school. So kids are speaking Spanish. And one that sticks out to me, even though it's just so specific. Oh, also, I said I wanted a house with one big room to make, hang out, and eat. And I'm
Mm.
sitting in that room right now. We bought our house in June. And like when my friend was reading to me the Mom Master Plan, it was so specific. And she was in this space being like, this house has one huge room that was added on.
And you haven't been looking at your plan, by the way, right?
No,
Like
the last
actively
time I would have,
looking.
I think I updated it like the first year. I think I checked in after I got that first job. But no, I haven't. I mean, I haven't looked at it in at least a year and a half. And I was like, I knew I always wanted that, but knowing that I'd written it down in there,
Yeah.
and that was a reason why we bought the house. And one that was also specific that she read, it was like, I want my capoeira community around me. I want to have my
Yeah.
friends, and my kids have been in capoeira, and then we've made these friends that just kind of, as COVID started opening up, made these friends that are like those people that you're just like, you're my people.
Yeah.
We're going to support each other. This friend's like, the mom is like, now we just grow old together. Like, this is how we have, and I was just like, holy shit, we met them through capoeira, and I had written that. We just recently, I hadn't been able to train this whole time because working and kid, like bedtimes and stuff, but we just went to our first, I got this mom and two other moms that I met through capoeira. I was like, okay, come, let's do a class. And so we all, just last week. So I was like, that community also
That's
is,
amazing.
so, yeah, there were, and it's funny because the only few that I'd written in there that I was like, oh, those haven't, they're moving, or they're like, I think some things need to die before new.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like that wasn't
totally.
even the right person to be named or the right whatever.
Totally.
But everything that was like my vision that I can have some level of control over really just kind of came to pass. And I think it was hard. I mean, when we moved to the States and the pandemic happened, I did have like 2 months where I was like, should we move back? Should we stay?
Yeah.
That was hard. And then it was like, I mean, we talked during that time. It's kind of a haze now, but I think it was like, no, let's keep going with the vision.
Yes.
Keep moving forward. And the States was someplace I knew that career-wise, it was going to have those opportunities. And yeah, I mean, it's scary when you feel like everything's falling down around you.
Totally.
Society-wise. And then being like, how do I feel like I'm in such the right place right now when I'm in such a worse society? Like, it's compared, just all the social stuff comparatively is just worse here.
Yeah, totally.
More challenges, more extremes, just is worse. But feeling that like I have a vision. This is what my parents live in. I live, 15 minutes from my sister. It was 5. My parents are here now. I went and helped my niece with her homework today. Like, it was one of those where my mom was like, oh my God, we're learning to build community in our family, because she was going to help my niece with her homework because my sister has 2 little ones, but that was going to change all of our plans. So I was like, how about you keep the plans, take my kids, and I'll go do it. It was one of those where we just worked it out. And it was like, you can't do that when you live so far away from family. And that was an important thing for me. I'm like, I know if I'm near my family, I'll be able to make the right decisions and I'll just have that support. And so that's huge too.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Like, that's amazing. That's the lifestyle piece, right? Because it's like the Mama Master Plan is not just about goals. Oh, I checked off a goal. We really focus on what's the ideal lifestyle that you want to create for yourself. How do you really want to be living in the day to day? What's going to really fill you and bring you joy? And yes, there's goals, there's career ambitions and other things like that. But it's also like that more holistic vision about, how do I want to feel every day? How do I want to show up every day? And it feels like you've done both. You're sort of creating the lifestyle that you want for your kids. You went to Mexico for how long? A month? Or
7 weeks. It was
yeah,
great.
so it's like amazing.
So
But then
fun.
you also have like these specific career goals that you've been able to kind of accomplish at the same time. So that balance is just amazing to be
Mm.
able to see how you accomplish those things. So like given the fact that you know, really struggled in that area before of like following through, how do you feel now about you've literally built so much momentum and like you've taken a lot of action for someone who, you know, you did. Like, you know, for someone who's like, you know, wasn't sure, maybe doubting, you know, and we're talking about this taking accountability for your life, you really did that. And you've been practicing that for years and years and years to a point now where like you have a different confidence level. You have a different like centered
Yeah.
groundedness about you. And it's just like, oh, this just me. This is what I
Mhm.
do. But that's
Mhm.
not how it was
True.
in 2019. Like you function like that now, but that was not your reality in
Yeah, I thought
2019.
about that.
Yeah. It's not that it wasn't there, but you
Yeah.
definitely weren't
But
sort
I
of
was
in
like,
that.
mhm.
And so now when I think of you, it's just like, oh, it's just a sure thing. You make decisions with clarity. You're like, oh, I just got another job and they paid me even more than I was getting paid over here. Like it's nothing. Like, you know, you built this whole book club and like, you know, all of these things. You know, it's like, Mel, you really shifted and built momentum and you take action. So I'm like curious, how does that feel for you? Because that's a big difference.
I mean, it feels great.
I'm fucking
I love
killing it.
money. I was actually thinking, I'm like, I can't build my personality too much around, or like my own level of self-worth based on how much I'm getting paid. Uh, but money's great.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, it just feels good. I mean, I think what felt good was that my friend reading to me my mom and master plan and my values, I was like, yes, yes, that is me. And I think at the time
Mm,
it's true. Like now I can point and be like, yes, that is me. I know that's me. That's why
mm.
I care about this. That's why I fight that. That's why and
Yes.
I think it's true. Like reflecting back at the time, I still was like, is it even valuable? Is making beautiful
Yes.
things even valuable? I don't know.
Yes. Right.
No, or
Right.
maybe like if I do it, it always is just going to be like a hobby and I can't make money. And
Right.
you're either doing something you like and not making money, or doing something you don't like and making money. I had that weird, that
Mm.
dichotomy. And so I think, I mean, naming what you want, of course that helps you get there.
Yeah. But it's
Otherwise
like
you don't
naming,
know.
but then you also put it to paper.
Yes.
You
I
printed
don't know
it.
how though. Oh, you mean putting it out? Yeah, yeah, literally printing it out.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, you literally printed it out.
Yeah.
Like it's just hard to deny that, even if you're not looking at it every day, even if you're not constant
Mhm.
in it, it does something to your inner spirit of like, oh, this is a real thing. And you said we're doing it. So we're doing it. Like no
Mhm.
matter what happens, we're doing it. And I feel like that's what's happened in your life over these years is like, oh no, we're doing this. And now it's just a thing like, oh, look at what I did. I could do anything else. Like, you know,
Mhm.
things that felt really scary to make a decision about, you've kind of worked up the muscles and the courage to now make these decisions that you probably couldn't have even imagined making way back when, you know,
Yeah.
and now you've worked yourself up to this like, oh, yeah, that just makes sense. Okay, done. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit.
I mean, this whole thing about knowing your values and then aligning with that, I think it's also
Mm,
just when you come to a decision, right? I would be like, "Ooh, oh, which one, which one, which one?" And now it's like, okay, well, it might be hard, but you just you go for that because that's going to get
yeah.
you where you want to be. I mean, like
Yeah.
this job that I took, it's been 1 year and I'm like commuting, I'm gone Monday through Wednesday,
Mm,
but that's not forever. I mean, one thing also like my husband and I have said, and it's true, is like you can do anything for a year.
yeah.
You
Sure.
really can. I mean, it felt kind of long,
Yeah.
but you can do anything for a year. And if it's going to get you where you want to go,
Right.
like I was gone 3 days a week, but we made it work. And now I'm looking at, you know, looking beyond that. And I'm like, okay, I put in my time. Now I can find the thing that really works for me because I already have that in the
Totally.
back, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
That's
think
awesome.
keeping that in mind and then having your long-term goal is really helpful. Like, do the thing that it's going to be hard, but it's going to get you to where you want to be, because
Yeah.
otherwise you're never good. Like, it's going to be hard to get somewhere new.
Yeah. But I feel like you proved to yourself that you can do those
Mm,
things by making those series of decisions. Okay, I'm going to apply for the green card. We're going to do this, and then we're going to, as soon as we get it, we're going to move. Like, you followed through on all of these things, and that creates a trust in yourself,
mm,
right? That maybe you didn't have before. It's like, the more I make the decisions and action on the things that I decided, whether it works out or not, I'm showing myself that my word matters and that I can trust me to
mm,
follow through, versus I say all these things, but I don't do anything. Then your
mhm.
spirit's like, girl, you flaky. Like, what? Like, you're not going to follow through, so
Yeah.
you can just doubt yourself and get away with it. But when you start taking action and then things start to move, you're showing yourself like, oh, when I make a decision and I take action, things start to align. And then I can change it if it doesn't. And I can, and it gives you that trust in yourself over time, that like, it just changes things. It's just like, oh, this is a thing. So now you can say, oh yeah, you just make the decision. You just do it. I can just do this for a year. Whereas before, every decision was like a grave decision. Like you said, shit, if I make a decision and I fuck up, then it affects my kids, it affects my husband, it affects my family, it affects, but now you're like, yeah, there is a consequence, but there's also positive consequence to
Mhm.
making these decisions. And look how different your life is now. Like, look at what you've accomplished, look at what you've done, like, look at what you've created. It's like, you want more of that. It's like,
Mhm.
oh fuck yeah, like, we're
I
we're
don't know.
just
Like,
getting started.
what's next?
Yeah, it makes sense. Hi Lolo, what do you need? Okay, go ahead. Okay, he needs to go to the bathroom,
Like,
he
did Tiff
said.
get a dog? He's like crawling in the background.
It's because I told him, like, hey, we're gonna be on this call, you gotta stay over there, like, give me some time. So how much time do you have left, by the way? We have like a few more questions.
Yeah, I'm good. I could go for like 15 more minutes.
Okay, cool. So had you ever, or maybe even since, tried any other programs or approaches like this, or like, what was different? Okay, Lola, I'll come in a sec. Okay. He's basically wants me to go wipe his butt when he's done. So he's just like, I'm just gonna prepare you. I'm gonna need you to come to the bathroom in about a minute. He said 60 seconds.
Wow, it's quick.
So I might have to go do that in a minute. But
Okay. Wait, what did you ask me?
yeah, so had you tried anything like this?
Oh,
And
yeah.
like, how does it compare? Like, how does it compare to the program?
I mean, I'd never done anything. Um, really. Not, I mean, not like, no. I'd never really done any coaching kind of
Mm.
stuff. Um, but I don't, if I do, then I'm just gonna call you.
Right.
I mean, my thing is like something has to, I found out about you and what you were doing through a friend. And for
Right.
me, it has to be, I have to do something where I heard someone say they
Mm.
have this experience and this is what it was like and this is what happened. Like,
Yeah.
if it's through a friend, even better. But if I
Yeah.
can hear someone say what their actual experience was, like this kind of conversation, to
Yeah.
me, that's just always gonna, and it hits at the right time. And then you're like, yes,
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. No, that totally makes sense. So like, you're definitely like a learner though. Like, you're always learning, you're always sort of figuring things out. So, there is YouTube University, there's, free workshops, there's therapy,
Oh,
there's all kinds
yeah.
of stuff. So like, what do you feel like also distinguishes this from like the free stuff that's
Yeah. I
available
was gonna say this is
online?
definitely better than Instagram. Young Pueblo ain't got
Instagram
nothing on
therapy.
mama.
Although I love Young Pueblo, but I'm like, bruh, it makes me want to write a book. Like, what am I doing? Like, come on, I got good shit to
If you
say.
repost it, then yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm like,
Well, I think for me, I think it just goes back to what I said before. Like, you have heard now so many mothers' intimate realities and
Yeah.
stories. That
Yes.
is like crazy when it comes to user research, user understanding,
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So that's really big.
Mm.
And I also, what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh yeah. So the reason why I hesitated when I said I didn't do any other coaching thing is that I do have some friends in Sydney that were part of the thinking field, or it's called, there's a book called Time to Think that this woman wrote. And so they have like a whole method and for getting your best thinking done. I had just done like a 2-day workshop with them, but what I learned there was they talk about like there's like 9 or 11 something elements of like that you need to do your best thinking. And one of them, like the main concept, is that the quality of the listener will determine the quality of the thinking.
Oh.
So that literally,
Oh.
you have someone intensely listening to you and giving you their full attention without distraction, you can do your best thinking. And I think that's
Wow. Aw. Thanks. Wow.
because, when like they said, if someone's listening to you and they're thinking about the next thing they're going to say,
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
they're distracted, or, you're talking to someone about something really important, and then, you can tell they're kind of in their own
Yeah.
world, thinking about what they're
Yeah.
gonna make for dinner. It changes your thinking. You're like, oh, I guess this isn't one
They're
of those
not
things.
really engaged. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think
Wow.
that is why the quality is different when you have someone listening to you than when you're just reading something and being like, maybe I should do that now. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. That is great. I love you're naming all the things. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's so good.
I do that.
Oh my gosh, I really do that. That's awesome. Okay, one second. I'm gonna pause this so I
Yeah.
can go wipe the kids' butt. One second. Thank you. That's amazing. Quality of your thinking is determined by the quality of the listener, the listening. That's good shit. Yes, Lolo. After I'm done, I'll be done very soon, okay? Okay, go back over there, please. Okay. Okay, so how has the program affected your like emotional well-being and your relationships? You kind of alluded to it a little bit, but like if you could speak to that, that'd be awesome.
Well, I guess since we were talking about accountability, I know that, well, just when I think about my relationship with my partner, like there were so many times I wouldn't be happy with something that was happening. And then he'd be like, well, what's the alternative? What suggestion do you have? And I'd be like, oh no. So I think being able to know helped me be more of an equal partner. Which I think a lot of times, I mean, I'm going to widely generalize, but when men feel they have to carry everything, it's kind of like they want that, but then they don't want that. No one wants that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Especially if they're like, well, now you're mad at me. So same thing, but like the other extreme. So I think just knowing what I wanted and then I did get support to do that, we did do it. So that definitely helped, just like having a more of a partnership and letting him fully support my plan, which wasn't really his, so yeah, I think that, I mean, on a really basic level, I'm like, I would just like read Women Who Run with the Wolves and just like laugh and cry.
Yeah.
Like go back to it multiple times. Like every
has
a little, fold on it.
Yep. And a little nugget.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, one other thing that I just personally realized when we were doing the work was, this thing about why are we doing things? What are we choosing to keep and what are we choosing to get rid of? And why are we doing certain things? And I can't remember what reflection or module this came out of, but like one thing I realized at the time, which was kind of simple, but very helpful, was like, oh, exercise for me is for my mental health. I think I had always just felt like I should exercise to not gain weight or whatever. But for me, I just know I identified that sometime during Wild Mama, and maybe that
Yeah.
was part of like what I needed to have a good day, like my morning routine. I'm not even sure, but I just know that just identifying the values around things that helped me be like, oh,
Yeah.
this is not just giving up a run because like I ate a salad, so I don't need to run today. It was like, no, I need
Yeah.
to do that so that my psyche, like my just for my mental health. I have to
Yeah.
help myself.
Yeah, I love that shift from the should, like, oh, I should probably do this, to like, oh no, this is why I actually want to. It's like finding that internal motivation versus
Mhm.
like the pressure, the external kind of like, well, you should be doing this. If you're not doing this, you kind of suck. Like all you say
Yeah,
is like, no, like what's my internal motivation that drives me to do these things? And that's why when we talk about the success rituals, it's coming from your why, your vision, it like has to line up. It's not just like, oh, let's just pick
yeah.
random values. It's like, no, let's pick things that actually align to the things we say we want and then how we're going to get there.
The
So
rituals, yeah.
yeah, the success
The,
rituals.
even just the
Week
word.
seven.
Like we can talk about rituals. That's what I mean. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember you made something like it was like a laminated paper,
I haven't
and you
looked
had
at
like, oh my goodness. Yeah, I want to see pictures of it. I'm like, I want to see that again because I remember you had
Yeah.
picked these like really cute like pictures and things like that, and it was like so cool. And I was like, I've been thinking about it. I'm like, we need to bring that back. Like, how do we make that? Like, I can't wait for. I swear, you and we're gonna design all of the Wild Mama, like everything, like planners, journals, magnets, like all the things. Like, I think it would just be so freaking fun.
Yeah.
Um, because you were the one that helped design the actual plan, and I still use that template. Like it's evolved a little bit, but I still use that
Yeah.
template. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been a big person in like the design part of it, when you were just at the beginning of your design journey.
I
So
know.
I can't wait for that to all evolve. And we're gonna be like selling stuff in Target or something. um so what are like is there any other like tangible results or like big breakthroughs or whatever that you feel like you had during or maybe like right after the program that you want to speak to?
I mean, I feel like we've talked about some big ones, right?
Some huge
Okay.
ones.
Okay. I feel like we've talked about the biggest ones. Um, yeah, I mean, just knowing that what I value is important
Hmm.
and the vision, yeah, writing out what it is that I want and taking accountability for that. And
Yeah.
I want this thing. How am I going to get there?
Yeah.
I remember at the time writing like I think I did like I did like a 1-year plan, a 3-year plan, and a 5-year plan. And I remember thinking like, oh, well, if it goes over, it can be pushed further. And then it was like,
Yeah.
actually, the 5-year got done in the 3 years, you
It-
know? So you can feel that way when you're writing out your goals, but like,
yeah.
and oh, one other thing, I mean, I don't know if this was a big breakthrough, but it's something you said that has really, it's
Hmm.
been present ever since Wild Mama, of that self-care. It can be, it's free. It's
Yeah.
not something you buy. It might
Mm.
be. I
Yeah.
got my long-term incentive bonus recently, and I was like, I'm gonna buy the
Hey.
wine, I'm gonna celebrate that idea of
Totally.
celebrating, but was great too, to be like, oh my God, I can celebrate this. I can just look at where I am at and
Yes.
it. But also the idea that self-care is when you show up for like aligning to
Mm.
your values, and you show up for yourself and you know where
Yes.
you're going. That is taking care of yourself. It's not
Yes.
that you went to the spa or you got a massage. That
Yes.
could be part of it, but really knowing why. Getting up
Yes.
to run and knowing why is totally
Yes.
different than like, I should go for a run right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the more that you show up for yourself, you're telling yourself that you actually matter. That's the best care you can give. Like to actually like show up for you and prioritize yourself, follow through on your word. Like you're literally telling yourself like, "Oh, I actually matter in this world." Like I'm
Mhm.
a person and I have value. Like and the things that I want and need are valuable. They matter. Like damn, like that's the best care you can possibly give. Like shit.
And
You
like I said
know?
about what we were talking about earlier, but just like realizing that like when I showed up for myself or have done these goals, really everyone around me is just cheering me on. No one is like, well, did you consider a career in something else that might have served humanity better? Like,
Yeah.
no, they're just like,
Yeah.
good for
Yeah.
you. Like, I'm happy
Yeah.
for you. You know, there's no
Yeah.
one really. I think I always had kind of a strong internal moral voice. Actually,
Mm.
that well, you asked me about that
Yeah.
voice that's saying, but is that the right way? Or like, is there a
Right.
reason you're doing that? If you do this, there should be a purpose, you know.
Yeah. Sure.
That's that kind of moral authority voice.
Mm.
I think realizing that I can have make my decisions and finding that that voice really hasn't been come out of anywhere real.
Mm.
No person has come to me with that. That was
Mm.
just inside my head.
Which is so interesting.
Yeah. And sometimes
Dang.
it was limited. So, you know, I think we need to have a moral compass. I'm just talking about the
Yeah,
moral authority
sure.
voice that's going, always questioning what you're doing. Is that the right choice?
Yeah. Which is also the voice of patriarchy, by the way,
Oh, fuck.
perfectionism.
I'm just feeling that right now.
You
I'm
know
just
what I
like,
mean?
shit,
Like
you were asking
that
me,
is
what's
the
that
voice.
voice inside of you? And I was
Yeah,
like,
that's that
I don't
voice.
know.
No, that's that voice. It's like, are you sure? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that's perfect enough. Like, there needs to be a better reason. If you don't know what what you want, then you shouldn't do it at all, because whatever you're going to do, it needs to be perfect. Like, it's that very linear black and white thinking of like, you either win or you lose. There's no other way. And if you're not going to win, don't even try. Like, it's like, it's so harsh. It's so opposite to our rhythms and our cycles and aligning to nature and honoring grandmother earth and, following your intuition and honoring your own cycles and rhythms. It's like, it's so opposite. But when we're in this, it's like what Clarissa Pinkola Estes says about like this predator culture, right? When you're in that predator culture, it's that constant pressure to perform, to be something that you're not, to live aligned to what everyone else wants for you. And especially when you become a mother, that is beat out of you. Like, you are not allowed to have a dream, you are not allowed to have needs, you are not allowed to want of anything, because now your goal and your purpose is simply to serve, to be a martyr, to produce, to suppress anything that you want, because you're a mother now. Like, that's the end all be all. And it's like, fuck that. Like, fuck you, fuck that. No. But if you don't have a process or a way to get out of that, it's one thing to say, oh, fuck the patriarchy. It's another thing to actually have the tools to start to shift and unlearn and decolonize your mind, your heart, your body. Like, and that's what I feel like I really want to offer with the program and just Wow Mama in general. Is like, everybody knows mothers are suffering, but it's like also unspoken. And it's also like, okay, but where are the solutions? Like, why are we not presenting solutions? It's just like, oh my God, mothers are suffering, they're drinking more, they're this, they're that. Okay, but also where's the path? And that's what I love about the program is there's a path. Like,
Mhm.
and it's a path that I found works for most mothers. Maybe it's not going to work for every mother, sure. But like across class, across race, across, like, whether no matter how your sexual preferences lie, what it all applies. Like, and the
Mhm.
process is a universal process
Mm.
that I found.
Yeah.
And I'm
And the
really
results
proud.
are different. You know,
The
like
results
you're
are
like
very different,
everyone had very different lives.
very different.
You could find the commonalities, but like, or what they get out of it might be so wildly different
Yes,
because it's
yes,
about getting to what you want, right?
yes,
But
yes,
it
yes.
impacted everyone.
Yeah, which is very different from like a lot of courses that it's a shared outcome, right? Like, we're
Mm-hmm.
all seeking to get to this outcome. We're going to build a course, or we're going to learn UX design, or we're going to like, so then you get your certificate, right? But this, your outcome could be different, even though you're going to print your plan. The plan is,
Yeah.
everybody prints the plan, everybody comes up with their plan. But what's in your plan? How
So
your dream and lifestyle, it's all very unique. And that's what I think is just so freaking special. And I'm so happy with it. I'm like, yes, like this is so great because it's cool to allow people's authenticity and what's unique about them to fully emerge, but have a process that is a shared experience that everyone has with this kind of shared language that we create in the program, a shared process, but the outcomes, like you said, they're all different. And I just think that that's so cool because it allows you to be fully you. You don't have to come in and adjust yourself to get results. Like you get to be fully you and get the results that work for you. And I think that that's so cool. So final questions. Would you recommend this program? And what advice would you give a mom considering the program?
I already have recommended the program and
Yes,
people
you
have
have.
taken it. So I would continue to recommend it.
Yes.
And what would I say to mom? I mean, do what you need to do to show up for it. And sometimes by committing to something, you find a way to make it work. You won't really find a way to make it. There's no magical 3 hours are going to pop up in your week and then you take it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So commit to it and then figure out how you're going to make it work. And that's when people come out of the woodwork. That's when you realize you can actually pick your kid up later and they're going to be fine. So I would say commit and then you will figure out a way. And I mean, I think that's the main thing.
Yeah.
If you're considering it, you feel like you need it, just commit and then figure out how you're going to make it work. Because you will.
Yeah, you will figure it out. That's right. Yeah, that's amazing. So any final words or anything else that you want to share about your experience or anything to close out this conversation?
I mean, just to share again that my friend was over and was reading to me. She said, I want to know about the master plan. What was it? What did you do? And I just was like, looked it up on my Google Drive, brought it up. And then she was reading it to me and
Which I think is just so beautiful.
It was so fun. I was like, I felt like I was getting showered with compliments. And it's not like it's written, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no, but because I think we do write it in the tense of like,
yes,
I am this, or like my values are this.
Yes.
That's right. It was like the way it was written. I honestly felt like I was just being complimented. And I was like, and also I was, because I have been thinking about doing it again and like based on where I'm at in my life now and kind of these bigger goals, but I think it was really a relief to hear that this thing I hadn't looked at for years, I was like, that is me.
Yes.
But it's still me. It's just that has always been me.
Yes.
But when I came to Wild Mama, I wasn't expressing it and I thought I was confused about it.
Yes.
And now hearing it, I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, of course.
Yes.
Because it's been internalized in me ever since.
Yes.
So I didn't have to reference that all the time.
Yes.
I know what my value is. I know that it's totally important for me to pull out all my books once a year and look at all of them and stare at them and then it's like that's me.
Yes.
I think something that might seem hard to articulate or whatever, once you've articulated it for yourself, it's something you already know about yourself. You just have to do the work to get there. And once you get there, you're going to find like, yeah, that is me. And that is my North Star.
Yeah.
Just who I am outside of any goal or plan. And that is so, like I said, it's weird just hearing my own thoughts and my own values made me like, it gave me a big boost of confidence.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. And that's how you know it's real, right? Because it's like you did all that work, you put it to paper, you printed it, but you didn't necessarily need to look at it all the time. But it's this guide that's just, it lives in you now. And it speaks to, like you said, the truth of who you are, that even if you're not looking at it, it's like your spirit doesn't forget, like your heart, your body, it doesn't forget all that work that you did. And I think that's what some people are afraid of, is like, oh my God, if I do all this and then I print it out and then I don't read it or stick to it or whatever, that I'm somehow going to forget. And I've seen it time and time again that people will come back 2-3 years later, and even if they weren't looking at it every day or constantly in it, they look back and they're like, holy shit. I got a text the other day of a mom who was like, Tiff, I can't even believe, like,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
just reread it and everything has come to pass, and I'm doing exactly the thing that I said I wanted. And it feels like, it's like, you know what you want, but you got to work through all this muck
It
over
was
the
a lot of
next
work.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy, like, oh, all of a sudden I just believe in myself and I
Yeah.
have all this confidence that you have now. You
Mhm.
had to go through the last 3-4 years
Yeah.
excavating, moving, sorting, going to couples therapy, like changing jobs, moving across the country. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
sorted through. And that's the piece of it that I think is important. Like, you transform in the program, you have all these epiphanies, you create
Mhm.
your plan, but then you got to go do the real work
Yeah.
after. And it's the people who are committed to that real work after, which most of the mamas, no matter what level, that's usually everybody is doing it because you went through the program. It's like a given
Yeah.
that you're going to excavate, you're going to integrate. Now you have to get rid of all of the stuff that is keeping you from being your full, honest version, right? And then you get to this point where you're like, oh my God, like,
Mhm.
I'm new, I'm different. And then you
Yeah.
read it and you're like, oh my God, I've known all along. That
Mhm.
was me. And now I'm more of that
Myself.
person
Yes. Yes.
because I've gotten rid of all of this other junk, the old beliefs. I worked through the crap. Like, I went through the swamp,
Mhm.
to get to this point now where you're like, wow, whew, I can breathe. I think I'm ready to go in again.
Well, and I think it's true. It's just even the process of doing the wild mama, doing the like the 8, however many weeks, is
Mhm.
that things can become internalized when you go through a process. Because I was just thinking, someone can be like, well, I'll just like watch someone's video and then like write
Right,
what my values are. Like that's
right.
just not the same as like really starting from scratch
Yes,
and bearing witness to other people, and they bear witness to you and they listen.
yes.
And I'm making it sound really heavy. It's also really fun. And but like you've done that process, and that capturing it and like being able to revisit it written down. When
Yeah,
else would I ever have written that shit down?
I'm
Never.
saying, right,
It
right.
needs to be written. Like for me, especially, has to
Yes,
be visual, has to be written down. And then you read it and you go, of course I knew that. But
yeah.
I only knew it really because I went through a process and then saw it.
Yes. And I think that's the power of the retrospect. By having it written, you're not going to remember everything that
No.
you
Yeah.
thought at that point. So when you
Mhm.
document that moment in time, and then years later, you're able to come back, you can have that reflection in retrospect of, oh my goodness. And then you can also celebrate, look how far I've come. Like, it's
Yeah.
powerful. It's like, that's why we need to document. That's why we need to write these things down. That's why we need that holistic process in order to get to this point, to then be able to look back and like witness your own self, your own growth, because it's so easy to get lost in this world with all of the noise, all of the things. And that's why I think the book is so powerful and the program is so powerful, because it's easy to forget. You can know yourself and it's
Yeah.
so easy to forget. So
Hmm.
when you can write it down, and that's accountability to keep moving, and then you can go back and reflect on what you did, it's like it all just reaffirms itself in a way that builds you up to
Hmm.
ultimately come into like more of your fuller potential. So it's just magic, man. It's just great. It's deep work. Like, I'm so happy for you, Mel.
I'm so thankful that I committed and then figured out how to be on those calls.
Yeah. Yeah. And you did figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. And like, it's just incredible how different your life is.
God.
But
Yeah.
also like how more of you really are now. Like,
I
it's
was
been
lost in someone
super
else's
dope.
story, someone else's plan and story, honestly.
Woof.
Yeah.
That's a bar. Yeah. I was lost in someone else's story. Yes. Now you're the main character. You know your book. You're writing your book. You've really taken the lead on your own life, and it's
Yeah.
been beautiful to see. And I'm just so happy and like proud of your journey and like everything that has come to pass. And I'm like, oh my God, I cannot wait for you to re-envision now what's coming next. Like, I'm
Mhm.
so freaking excited for you. It's just
Thanks.
Awesome. And you inspire me, Mel. You really do. Like everything that you've done and everything that you continue to do. Like I think about it. Sometimes I'm like, man, Mel did this. I gotta get my shit together. Like, let me go figure this out. Like, like, like it's great. It's like that's the beauty of the community and knowing someone so deeply. It's like, oh yeah, it's a reminder, of like, oh, I can be this because you're that, or you can be this because I'm that. It's like we need that exchange. We need that community, and especially when it's another mama of color. It's like shit, like if she could do it, I could do it. If I could do it, you
Exactly.
could do it. Like, let's go. And then we get to be on this journey together,
Mhm.
making that progress. It's just awesome. So I appreciate you so much, and thank you for taking the time to have this lovely chat. I don't think we've ever talked in depth in this way
No.
about the program, specific, like your
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
and all that stuff. And it's been years now. So it's like it's really cool to talk about.
It is. And like I said, it was just literally just came up and reading my master plan. And that wasn't even because I was like, oh, I'm going to talk to Tiff, on Thursday. It
Yeah.
was just like, I want to hear it. And my friend asked me.
Yeah.
So it feels very of the moment, and um, yeah, really helpful for me to reflect on it as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank your friend for reading it. I'm like, I feel like I benefited even though I wasn't there. I'm like, wow, thank you for reading that to Mel. Like, that's so sweet. Like to have someone read to you about you,
I know.
remind you of who you are. I'm like, I need to find a friend. Like, where's my friend and read mine to me? I just reprinted mine, 46 pages. I'm like, who's gonna read this to me?
I mean, that could just be your podcast. Just put it on loop.
Oh
Be
my
like,
God. I know. It's awesome. I know I should do my own audiobook of my own Mama Master Plan. That'd be dope. Oh my God.
right?
That'd be crazy. What
I'm
if
gonna
that
read.
was a
Okay, yeah.
podcast episode?
I'm like, I need to read. I need to record that to myself too
Oh
because
my
it's
God.
like, yeah.
That's such a good idea. Because people do audiobooks all the time.
Mhm. Yeah.
I wonder if I have the balls to like, or the ovaries, if I have the ovaries to record it and actually like put it on the podcast. That'd
Oh,
be
man.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
Um, but for the mamas, for the mamas.
I
But I don't
know.
know if I will. I don't know if I will though.
But
Maybe
just
just
for
for
yourself.
alumni. Maybe just for
Exactly. And
alumni.
this was just a like, close friend reading to me about, but
Yeah,
it felt good hearing it read out loud. Yeah.
that's such a great idea. I'm going to do that and I'm going to listen to it for myself. Like that's so great. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Thank your friend, whoever she is. We like you. Well, thank you, Mel. I know you gotta, do your thing. It's late, where you are, but I really, really appreciate this. This was an awesome conversation. So stoked for people to hear more about your journey and all the benefits and just where you've come and where you are now. It's just amazing. So thank you for all the time we shared
Yeah.
today.
I know. Yay. 2 Zoom calls in a day. That
Yeah,
was
I know. This is
we
awesome.
did it. We found a date.
Yay, we did it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. And yeah, we'll talk soon.
Okay. Sounds
Okay,
good. Thanks, Tiff.
bye.
Bye.